Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. I'm Henry Hughes. I teach literature and writing at Western Oregon University. Thank you. Thank you. I also direct Right Place, Literature, Arts, and the Environment, which is co-sponsoring this event with the Office of the Provost. Okay. So, let us remember, this is Kalapuya land. This university was built on the traditional homelands of the Lakayamute Band of the Kalapuya people. Following the Willamette Treaty of 1855, the Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to federal reservations, some as far away as Yakima, many to what was then known as the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation, about 50 miles northwest of here. Today, many descendants of these first people are part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. These descendants are among our students, faculty, staff. There are guests here today. We're very honored to have Professor David Lewis from Oregon State, an anthropologist, is here with us today, member of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. Our wonderful Chris Mansan, our librarian, has helped so much set up books, having Heid Erdrich's books available. And it's with truth and humility, I want us to remember this history and with an open mind to the future. Expressed in events like this, let us learn more about and honor and celebrate Native American literature and culture, Native American life. Many, many people to thank for this event. Heid E. Erdrich, thank you so much for coming. We're so excited to have you here. Wow. We've got some luminaries here today, Professor David Lewis, and we're honored to have our state senator, Deb Patterson, is here. Thank you, Deb, with her husband, Steve. Deb is a big supporter of diversity and of higher education, and we're really honored and appreciate the work you're doing during hard times. Thank you, Senator. For this room, Chelsea Blattner, thank you. Deborah Rozelle, thank you for filming. Sarah Crockett and the people from the bookstore, thank you so much for selling Heid's books here. Dean Christian Latham Scott, thank you so much for your support in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. I mentioned Christopher Mansan, the library, terrific work there. My colleagues in humanities, Ryan Topper. Professor Erdrich came to both my class and Ryan Topper's literature class today. What a wonderful experience that was, with just having amazing conversations, talking about her terrific poems and big issues in Native American literature and culture. So blessed to have all that happen today. Thanks to my wife, Chloe. Thank you, Chloe, for everything. Appreciate it, Chloe. Having a glass of wine, I hope. You deserve it. You really deserve it. Wow. Thanks to Katie, Dave, Kara, and Gretchen at the foundation. So much good work making Right Place and things like this possible. Thanks to catering. Thanks to Maureen, Denise, and Brittany, and Marcom. Appreciate all your promotion of this event. This event is co-sponsored by the Office of the Provost. So thank you, Provost Jose Cole, and to your amazing executive assistant, Annabelle Manzo. You are fantastic. Thank you. Really, really worked hard to make this happen. So the Provost now kind of administers the Jensen Lecture Series. So this is an official Jensen Lecture Series. It began in 1995 with an endowed gift from Dr. Arne S. Jensen, who was a 1937 grad of WU, back in the old normal school days. Funny word, isn't it, normal school? We were talking about that. I think are we in abnormal school now? I don't know. We got to look into that. But the Jensens gave a wonderful gift that is now endowed. It helps sponsor events like this. Are the Jensens here today? Okay, because Arne Jensen III has attended events, and we're very grateful to that family. Past speakers have included in the Jensen Lecture Series Andrei Kudrescu. Do you know him? NPR, great crazy poet, love him. Sister Helen Prejean, a leading advocate for abolishing the death penalty, author of Dead Man Walking. She was one of our Jensen Lecture speakers. Vicente Fox, president of Mexico. Heid E, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, and now Heid E. Erdrich. That's wonderful. So the co-sponsor, Right Place, was founded by John Purdy, who is here today with his wife, Cynthia. They are both distinguished alumni of WU, graduated in the 70s, and went on to have wonderful careers as educators. John taught for many years at Western Washington University. He published a lot on the environment, on Native American studies, and then founded Right Place in 2013. And it's here now at WU, thanks to one of your colleagues, Dr. Jesse Peters. So thanks, Dr. Peters. So yeah, in addition to being the college president, during hard times, I mean hard times if you're Harvard or Mississippi Community College. These are hard times for schools. And we appreciate your leadership and your love of literature and art and humanities. Dr. Peters is a published poet and a scholar, and he continues to offer collegial advice to people like me. He said, look at Heid Erdrich's work. And I did, and I found a really great poet. So Dr. Peters, would you do the honor of introducing Heid? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first, thank you, Henry, for all you do to make something like this happen and the dedication you have to making Right Place succeed and to having this Jensen Lecture Series continue. Henry Hughes. It's great to see so many people here. I think this is a wonderful turnout, and it's good to see John and Cindy, alums who love this institution. And it's funny, I met John Purdy on a trout stream in New Mexico about 32 years ago. So it's funny now, here we are in this room together. Who would have thought that? Thanks for your work on the Right Place. It's so important to talk about place and landscape. But I'm here to introduce Heid Erdrich, who I have known since '06, I think. I can't really remember. I think we met at his Leta Pueblo at a NAWS conference. So NAWS is Native American Literature Symposium, and it was a wonderful gathering of people interested and dedicated to indigenous literatures, and we would gather every year, and it was a great community for a number of years, and it supported young scholars and writers. And Heid was always a major part of that. So I got to know her a little bit during that time, and she is a wonderful human being. So I'm going to read some stuff just to sort of validate her wonderfulness, and then turn it over so we can get to the main event. An Ojibwe writer, editor, and activist enrolled at Turtle Mountain in North Dakota, Heid E. Erdrich is the author of 7 poetry collections, including Little Big Bully, which won the National Poetry Series Award and the Bobbit Prize from the Library of Congress. Her latest 2024 collection, Verb, Animate, Poetry and Prose from Collaborative Acts, features art by Jonathan Thunder. She edited the American Book Award-winning New Poets of Native Nations and Sister Nations, Native American Women and Community. A culinary enthusiast, Heid is also the author of Original Local, Indigenous Food Stories and Recipes from the Upper Midwest. Professor Erdrich has received 2 Minnesota Book Awards and has served as the Minneapolis Poet Laureate and winner of a 2020 National Poetry Series. She is currently a visiting professor at the University of Montana. So Heid is, wait, don't get up yet. I was just going to say that there's some people when you're around them, they just make you feel better, and Heid has always been a person like that. I have been fortunate to spend a lot of hours socializing and talking to her about all kinds of things, and she's funny and she's kind, and she always makes people feel like they're worth something. So please, Heid.
That was super kind. Thank you so much. I want to start too, without repeating too much, I just want to say I sincerely thank all you folks who invited me out here, starting with Jesse, Ryan Topper, whose class I went to, John Purdy and Cindy, who I got a surprise chance to visit with, and Annabelle Manzo, who was very patient with me. But most importantly, Henry Hughes and Chloe, who I haven't gotten to meet yet, but I hear has made things nice for me. Hi, Chloe. Grab a glass of wine for me too. I'm going to want them. The librarians and the booksellers, I always have to thank the booksellers. Thank you so much. Folks, if anybody wants my spot, you can sit in it. Those of you who are standing, if anybody wants to smush in, please do so now. I also want to thank the Jensen Lecture Series. Just hearing that lineup made me feel fantastic. When I was asked whether I would come out to do this, I knew would just be finishing this James Welch visiting position at the University of Montana, Missoula. I got my grades in, but I'm still sending out responses to students. So I was like, no, I can't do it. And then they were like, well, and so I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm really glad I did. It's a part of the country I haven't been in. I'm fascinated by things. I'm really just like honored to have, people come in from other institutions, and I'm just glad to be here. So I'm only going to read about 40 minutes, and my phone battery died as usual. That's very typical of me. People are like, who lets their phone die? Me, I'm that person. So Henry, if you'll give me a 5-minute once I've gotten through a half hour, I'd be grateful. So thank you very much. I have to say that Henry has been the best host I've had in decades, really. I told Jesse that, or did they call you Dr. Peters? President Peters, sorry. Being so cash up here. But yeah, I have been places where, it takes me 2 days to get there, and they drop me off at the hotel or have me take a lift to the hotel and tell me which pizza place delivers. And they've been treating me very well here. Independence is a beautiful hotel, just a really beautiful, the river is gorgeous. So it feels like a little vacation that I get after my teaching. Students have been fantastic. We talked a little bit about this new book that I have, which is, this version of it is just beautifully put together. It has artwork by an artist that I've worked with a lot. I work with native visual artists an awful lot, and it's kind of my other gig, besides being a writer and all my other gigs. I have a lot of things I do. And I learned so much from working with visual artists, choreographers, all kinds of filmmakers, sculptors, public artists, and I decided I would put them all in one little book. So this book just came out from Trio House Press, which is in Minneapolis. There's a website with it. You can see some of the poem films I've made. And I'm just going to read a little bit. It has both prose and poetry in it, and I'll show the examples of poems in there. And it also has these little prompts, so it's, to try writing something based on what I did. So I'll just do 2 of these, and then I will read from Little Big Bully. This is about collaboration with dance. I'm going to preface this further. My prefaces have prefaces. When I started working with choreographers, I was just appalled that they said, could you collaborate? And I was like, oh, I don't have to move on stage, do I? No. Well, maybe. Yeah. Then why don't you try? And I said, I will only do it if I get to wear a bear costume. I have done that once. I've worn a bear costume once. Otherwise, never performed. The challenge of this work with dancers daunts me. It is not that I have avoided physical themes in my writing. It is just that I was forced to forge a new embodied role in my work with choreographers. I am a woman of words, and their work, dancers' work, is beyond words. In a black box theater or in a dance studio or offstage, I become a verbal artist in a non-verbal art form. Whether I am suited for this work or not is the question that draws me and repels me at once. How is it that I found myself working with choreographers not once but several times? The answer begins perhaps in friendship rather than shared aesthetics. Perhaps I sense something we share that I cannot get to in other ways, cannot reach in written words. Or perhaps there's something in our different but shared indigenous and native being in the world that has drawn me to the work. So all the artists that I talk about in here are native artists, mostly Ojibwe artists, and I think it's the only reason I would do the kind of work I've done. with them. You know, worked on a 19-foot tall sculpture of a wolf and another sculpture of a moose and had them pedal power my voice coming out of them. I don't think I would have done that had I not had that understanding that other Native artists were working on it. So that's kind of the premise of this book. This book contains a number of poems that use Ojibwe language at the level I can use it, which is at a rank beginner. I can understand the language, I can say some prayers in it, I can read it fairly well, but speaking it has always been hard for me. So I began something that I call lexiconographies or lexiconographical poems. I thought somebody else made up that term, but I've never found it attributed to anybody, so this is me. Lexiconography. I'll read the poem that I'm mentioning. I created a non-mindim in the depths of a body of water out of conversations with other Native women poets that we had in person and via email around the water protectors at Standing Rock. As a result, Words for Water, a Whitney Museum performance for Standing Rock, was performed by Natalie Diaz, Layli Longsolder, Jennifer Forrester, composed by violinist Laura Ortman and others in 2017. I performed via phone. In addition, filmmaker Zhao Lu created a poem video based on Anamindim in the depths of a body of water, starring my fellow tribe woman Inez Dakota in 2019. This poem was also published in Orion magazine in 2018. Both Anamnimdim and Many Stars, which follows, are in a form I call lexiconography that uses dictionary as a prompt. And so then later down there you get the prompt, like you could write your own poem using the dictionary. So I'm just going to read this really quickly. Bako bi akwe. He, she, they, someone leaves tracks going into the water. Bako bi dabi iwe. He, she, they, someone dives into the water. Bako bi, she, he, they, someone goes down into the water. Aguamo, she, he, they, someone floats still in the water. Makobi, she, he, they, someone emerges from the water. Gweabi, ibi, she, he draws the water. Bi, dubi, she, he, they, someone brings the water. Nibi, the water. And then one more from that approach. This one is for Jonathan Thunder, the artist. Jonathan was doing a piece that was projected in animation on a tunnel in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. So if any of you went through and saw this like incredible tunnel of animation, that was Jonathan, and I wrote this for him as he was working on it. Many Stars. Ish piming iwidi gegu wawasisi. There's something up in the sky flashing. Ishpaming, the sky high in heaven. Anang, star. Anangoka, many stars. There are many stars, stars present, abundant. Anishinabekwe, an Indian woman. An Ojibwe woman, a human woman. Ashkinikwe, she, he, they, someone is a young woman, a first-time woman. Mindimuyaniwi, old woman, she, he, they, is an old woman. Wisa Kode Wikwe, Métis woman, a native woman of mixed ancestry, a scorched wood woman. Ishkodewi, she, he, they are a fire of the sun. Ishpaming Iwedi Gegu Wawasisi, there is something up in the sky flashing. So that poem was all found in the Ojibwe People's Dictionary, which is available online. Oh, thank you. I was telling the students that when I first started teaching, studying Ojibwe language, which was the last person in my family to speak it fluently was my grandfather. When I started studying it, the first teacher I had said, "Why do you want to learn the language?" And I said, "Well, it was the language in my family." And he said, "Well, I'll teach it to you, but what do you do for work?" And I said, "Well, I'm a writer. And he said, well, then you got to put it in your writing. That was my payment, he said. So that's how these poems come to be. The poem that I wrote in 2023 that ended up in this book, I think it's the oldest poem. It is the youngest poem in the book, written in 2023, was projected on a giant building, and the prompt from the filmmaker, who's also an Anishinaabe woman, was to write about kindred and kinship, but not about necessarily the positives. So, kindred river. When we say familiar, we don't mean only family. Snow flow grown suddenly red, daybreak or nightfall that glow, or noon view of brown current, green waters and swirl and drift. What makes us inhale wet scent of grass and mud? Genetic memory? We've never been here. Smells so familiar, though. We say blood to mean related. We say blood to say ancestor. When we say familiar, we don't mean only family. When we say family, we don't mean biology, even if all we get is biology. When we say biology, we might think of frogs, not frogs green on a lily pad, not the low song along the river on spring nights. We might think of splayed frogs. We might think of high school. When we say family, we don't mean biology. When we say blood, we mean related. We say blood to say ancestor. It's a red river, a fine line, what we mean by relationship. What we mean by relations means kin and skin. We can be thin-skinned as frogs, dissect relationship, but still relate. When we say familiar, we don't mean only family. We say blood to mean related. We say blood to say kin. Kindred spirits too, red waters within us all. Kind waters, we need you, we all do. All of us related. Related by water, we need water for all my relations. In Denewe Maganidok, familiar phrase we will say to say we are all related. In Denewe Maganidok, we kin. We will be kin and kind as water. Red water flows through us all. Familiar kindness in us, kind red river forever, kindred river forever. Thanks. So that's my baby, my new book. I'm going to read one of the poems from an old book because it was in a packet that students looked at, and I realized I didn't get to talk to you about this one called Girl of Lightning. It's from a book called Cell Traffic, book of mine called Cell Traffic, and it's got a lot of stuff about DNA and how some cultures will take the bones and bodies of other cultures and put them on display and study them. And I think you all know some of that story. There's several poems in the voice of Kenny Wickman in there. So there was a lot of things about why would there be cultures that do that? What does it mean? I found it kind of creepy. This is about a mummy of a child. And here's a quote that begins it from New York, September 11th, 2027 from the New York Times, or 2007, sorry. The bodies seemed so much like sleeping children that working with them felt almost like kidnapping, more like kidnapping than archaeological work, said Dr. Miramont. Girl of Lightning. Thunder loves you, mumbles charms to warm you, folded cold body. Lightning's pity picks you, licks a kiss, but what's left to wick? Even direct hit misses. No amount of flash and hiss fires you, inviolate virgin. Inflammable channel to gods, long gone or gone underground. Ghost gray flecks left in rock. The altar, your shelter for 5 centuries, where you huddled red painted hair and wreathed with feathers. Weave threads of your shawl, not a shroud, since you were live when left for dead. Weave cover, please, I beg your handlers. Pull stitches so that wound closes over your smoldered remains. They say you clutch your mother's hair, strands in a bag sent up the mountain, an introduction to the gods of science, who read threaded DNA to determine who you were related to when human. Not the crushed boy near you. No brother he, nor sister the girl, bound away to sacred silence. Cased in plastic, cased in glass. Visitors point and justify the past. See what they did? Child sacrifice. Fattened them up, drugged them. Spanish violence, Christian influence, border fences, all deserved because of her wad of cocoa leaves and elaborate braids. Lightning's mark spares you. Singed cheek and blasted chest, blackened flesh looks less asleep. Flashed back the fact you're dead. A charred mummy, so far gone even lightning's longing couldn't wake you. Thunder won't forget you. Hums in the generator's song in cooler vents to your coiled form in cold storage. Songs of your 6 years plus 5 centuries come to this. Doom, doom, doom. Lightning still sighs. Release, release, release. Okay. Have I used up my time yet? No, okay. I'm going to read from this book, but I just realized I forgot my reading glasses. I think I did anyhow. I'm going to try. I'm going to have to do this silly thing. This is the pre-poem, the poem that comes before the body of the book of Little Big Bully, which was my 2020 book, and which I've been talking to students about a lot today. The cover artist is Erdrich Carlson, a good friend of mine and somebody I talk to a lot about my obsessions. She talks to me about her obsessions, and often we find they are similar, or if not exactly the same. One time she said, "What are you doing?" in a text, and I said, "I'm looking up pink dolphins," and she sent me a picture. She was painting a pink dolphin. Yeah, this is sort of the moment I decided to write this book. How loves how I love you, how we hang on words, how eaten with need, how we need to eat, how weevils sift the wheat, how cold it is, how thick with hoar frost, ice slick, sleet freeze, how wintry the mix, how full of angst, how gut sick, how blue-lipped, how we drink a health, how we care, how easy over as eggs it all, how it all slides, how absurd, how yet tender we are, how yet wrapped in a thick coat, how battered, how slender the flesh, how we wrap ourselves, how many selves we are, how I miss you many, how I see you, how your eyes warm mine, how tiny am I inside, how enormous my need, how you open an old-fashioned satchel, how deep it yawns, how bleak this need, how like winter, how it yet catches the light, how brilliant the sundog's perihelion, moondog's parasaline phenomenon, optic, how fetching your spectacles, how my thumbs might fit alongside the slope of your nose, how my own glasses slide down my thin bridge, how ridiculous the theory of the land bridge, how inane the bibble babble, how we grew to be friends, how we grew thumbs, how opposable we all, how we grew sparks, how we blew up a fire, how angry, how incensed, how we resist, how we beat up drops, how water will not run, how we distract, how loud the dog snores, how loudly, how noisy the snow grows, how many degrees below, how we fret, how again, how we all came here, how did we, loves, how did we come to this? That was a little bit about watching people fight on Facebook, and I thought, this is the end. In 2014, I was like, this is what's going to end us. And I was right. Most of the poems in here were written 2018, 2019, and the book was published in 2020. I was talking to the students about asking myself questions about complicity. How are we complicit in things that happen to us, how can we possibly resist? And I explained to them I wasn't talking about blaming victims. I was talking about interrogating yourself so you have a mechanism by which you can resist. And we all have it. No matter what happens to you, there is something in you that you can take responsibility for, or you could get help having that mechanism. And this is about growing up listening to people talk about World War II and wondering how could people have not resisted. Variations true. Subtle color variations of lilac keep coming back to me. Late 1970s, I asked my adult cousins in Germany, what did you do in the war? We were young, they said. We didn't know. All was normal, they said. Normal auf Deutsch. We took our bikes, they said, out of the Stadt, the city. They went to gather flowers, some seasonal fest they biked to dance, to eat, to sing. I imagine them in wide skirts with aprons maybe on curvy bikes with wire baskets filled with lilac blossoms overflowing and abundant and all the young things. I imagine them pedaling back on a day that happens later, but time collapses in these moments, and I see them braking heavily when they find the city ruined. Then they run to the river. This actually happened. Survive waves of flame. Too late for my father's grandparents, already dead in the rubble. Buried in debris, the city later piled into an enormous hill that grew over green and inviting along the same paths my cousins biked, and recalled when I asked, what did you do? Normal, they said. I never understood, instead kept lilacs in my head, so many pinks and faded inky purples that turn blue in age, so many stages of one bloom that might not even grow there, but my mind maybe stood lilac as a substitute for a German word. Normal, they said. I never knew how many variation of a vision we can spin to make one image that might not even have been true, but now is now, and now I know we do. I picked out a couple of other ones that were kind of going along with the theme that I talked to students about here on this campus. You have some great students here. I really enjoyed them. I thought those University of Montana students were great. Sorry. No, they were really good, actually. Perpetual communion of junior high. She used a brittle gloss of sugar as emblem of her girlhood game, the kind of translucent candies, watermelon, green apple, cinnamon hot. Eyes closed, you heard the crinkle and unwrap as you stood, tongue out. If you were in, it went in. If you were out, you spit out the twist of cellophane or swallowed it at the jock priestess of junior high's command. Or maybe you carried your own candies, showed her your tongue stained pink or green or red, stuck it out hard and passed. True, her goons kicked you in the ass, but to this day, any artificial taste takes you back. There was a time you stood apart from all of that. Oh. I have two more. Do I have time for two more? Okay. This is a little poem about the tarot deck Fool. Do you know the cards from the tarot deck? Anybody? And the card, the Fool, is a good card. It seems like, oh, nobody wants to be a fool. But the Fool is looking back over his shoulder while he steps forward and off a cliff, essentially. He's also carrying a red bandana on a stick, and one time in my life I actually saw what we called a hobo when I was a little girl with a red bandana on a stick, and so I, of course, went up to talk to him because I was like, what? You're too much of an archetype walking down the street. But this is, again, about the time we found ourselves in 2018 through 2020. I feel like a fool, do you? A tarot deck fool looking back to see if you are looking back at me. I'll trip right off that cliff. Once in North Dakota, in my actual childhood, I saw a hobo, that's what we said then, with an actual red bandana bundle he had slung on a stick. He tried to get me to walk under a bridge with him. He said he had a great gift. My bigger sister sniggered at that, or there'd be a red dress hanging on a tree for me. Which brings me back to that fool tumbling ass over tea kettle into some gully, having fallen for it. Then dusting fool's self's ass off, pick yourself up, start all over again. This is a world of men. This tarot deck ensure the world. And yet I won't give a single pronoun for it. We are both fools. We are all fools. Once in my actual adult life, in a hideous time of lies, my own stories, our own stories were required of us. Fool though I feel, real and truly effed though we be, I picked my first person. I set my truth free. Fool, me fool, me fool me. There's poems at the end of the book that were specifically meant to be hopeful to others, especially younger people who I knew would read this. Plus, I have 2 college-age kids, and one of them was with me during the writing of most of this because we got stuck in a polar vortex and it was way below zero, and we were just like cut with there was only one place in the house that was warm enough. School was canceled. She was hanging out with me. So this is a poem for them in the end, and I will maybe read, what's my timing like? I'm close, okay. I'm gonna do questions too, so get your questions ready and I will call on you. This is about, it was so cold I decided to watch one of the worst movies ever, and after I'm done, I will ask the question. If you know what this movie is, you can say, but I'm just gonna read it first. She loved it, and they really got into this movie. Oh, terrible movie. Slogging on snowshoes, 40 urban miles, ice crevasses replaced by the glass roof of a mall. Manhattan's the destination, of course. Terrible movies require a ruined New York City, circa 2007. A climate collapse, at least telegraphed. Art direction's not bad. Lady Liberty, iced over, hair blown into icicles 100 feet long. Simpatico audience in the polar vortex 2019. We huddle in a house blazed to 60 Fahrenheit. Not bad, but drafts dance cobwebs, frosted windows ping, the whole house groans. We groan too. Oh, terrible movie. How we love the disaster flicks, train our kids to win the apocalypse. So proud when the kid knows the hero's got it wrong. He doesn't even have on gloves. Use food to distract the wolves. Oh, odd intimacy when we holler, oh no, because the refuge turns out to be the library. Librarians portrayed as nerdy and passive. Who are they? Librarians we know could find the Holy Grail shelved in mysteries somewhere, or at least know how to research our values of newsprint, corn chip fuel, or hand sanitizer fire starters. Never mind, I'm already proud. As soon as she sees the stacks, our kid yells, outraged, let me guess, they burn the books. She never would, but reader, they did. All right. The shortest poem in the book, almost the shortest. The last poem in the book. The only thing my editor did with the order of this book was to say, you have to put this poem last. And it's called Reprieve, and it's based on the premise that they're colors we could see, we just don't, but that could change. Something could change, and all of a sudden, we would see the world differently. Reprieve. We did not expect the light to break into prism and the earth to cool. A new deluge, knowledge. We waited, praised, so much we did not know we did not know. We missed the purple of snow shadow, but kept snow, snow. Our skins struggled into iridescence. Everyone grew new. We knew not who walked among us. Locks dropped off. Some felt a loss. Clocks stopped. They shut up days, walked out nights. Some gave up when Jesus did not come. Fine, we thought. We're through with dying. Now this shimmer, everlasting lake of time, when every child born is ours, every child mine. Thank you. Okay, questions? Okay.
Take the mic here. Thank you so much. Excuse me.
Questions, comments, critique, requests? What was the movie? Did anybody know what film it was?
Anyone know the movie?
Okay. Not The Day the Earth Stood Still. Much better movie. Day After Tomorrow. Terrible, terrible movie, which I've
Day After
watched
Tomorrow.
repeatedly. Just so I could go, it's so bad.
Okay. Do you have a favorite line from one of your poems?
I have to admit, when I wrote that poem, Variations True, and like now is now and now we know we do, that I was like, I just wrote a good poem finally. After 40 freaking years of writing poetry. So I that one I felt good. But usually I would say no, they're all my favorites, you know. So at the time they have to be, or what, you know, you gotta have the confidence.
You have to love your lines.
Yeah, you have to love your lines, just like little children, the killed darlings. I do go a lot of places, so I'm open to inspiration. And I also have a process of taking walks, and that helps me. But I just look at things. I research. I do a lot of research.
Thank you, Jasper. So in your poetry, there's a lot of noise relating to the internet and ecological destruction. In the wake of all of that, negativity, how do you find inspiration and hope in your poetry?
I was so distracted by the fact that Jasper asked me that, because Jasper is the name that I wanted to name my kid. And if my kid ever changes their name, I'm trying to get them to agree to be Jasper again. But thank you. That's a great question. I think, the fact that what has happened to us, what happens has happened before, it'll happen again, that, just all that Battlestar Galactica stuff, if nobody's Battlestar Galactica fan? Okay, good. Those things all just are really meaningful to me, just thinking about how have we learned to get through this phase of humanity? Do things just get a little better each time? Do we figure out a little bit more? I believe people love the places that they love, physically love the land and the creatures in it, and that they will fight for them. And so I have a lot of faith that, might not be everything, but there will be continuity. I'm from people who already went through apocalypse after apocalypse, and I mean that quite literally. So I feel like we can survive because we have. And people get through things. It helps to be in a community. It helps to save everything you can. So save it all, especially anything beautiful. It helps to make you feel hopeful.
Thank you, Hayden. You should know that Jasper is a poet. And
I could tell.
He's going to enter the MFA program at the University of Idaho.
Ooh.
And so he needed that advice. No, really, because that's a really undertaking, It's not like he's going to go into some big high-paying corporate job. He wants to be a poet. So
poets rake down the bucks. Let me tell you,
Sometimes I get free drinks. That's about all I've ever made from poetry. Okay, Jake has a question. Jake. Okay, so Jake asked that you describe a lot of events, and what techniques do you use to make that event real and present for your reader? How do you reconstruct events so vividly?
Well, I understand that people will think differently from me, which is it seems like really basic, but it's a lesson quite a few people could learn. It's on that evolution scale. What is it called? I I don't remember. It's not the hierarchy of needs. It's something else. But yeah, so I mean, I'm practicing that. I'm practicing empathy. I'm practicing thinking how things will mean something different to a different person. I'm using all the physical details so it appeals to people. They can make a little film or sensory moment in their head. Those are the things that I'm most doing. Choosing my words just really carefully. And occasionally I'll look at something, I'm like, chose the wrong word after I've published it. So.
Yeah, cliche. Now, interesting, because I'll add to this. A lot of writers, we want natural language. We want to kind of mine the speech that we all use, but often we do use cliches in casual conversation, but sometimes in poetry they can weaken a poem. Yeah. So how do you deal with cliches in terms of being natural in your language?
One of the things that I did long ago is I will try and write the same thing 2 or 3 or 4 times even when I'm drafting a poem, and then I'll look back and think which is the most original, and then I'll just cut the others. And I think a lot of people, when you're looking at their poems, they've said the same thing 2 or 3 times. The third time is way better than the first 2 times, so you cut those first 2 times.
So Aiden is obviously a spy for the Minnesota Arts Council. And he wants to know, Heid, if you're really working on these poems, how many hours? We got to have this logged now.
We had a conversation about how poets get hassled by the tax guys if somebody doesn't like your work in the legislature, because we have excellent funding for poets and other artists in Minnesota, and I'm very grateful for it. And we just passed that legislation for another 25 years again.
Bravo, bravo.
Yeah. Wow. However, if somebody doesn't like you, they will take you to task and make you prove. So I should be keeping track of these things, but honestly, I don't. I do know that the poem I read, Girl of Lightning, took a long time because there was a picture of Hillary Clinton looking at this image, and I just could not forget that image, but I couldn't figure out how to make a poem out of it until I started working on this stuff about bodies and bones and DNA and, the strange, let's say it's a mystery why indigenous people's bodies and bones get put in collections and other people's don't, but it's not a mystery. But so I was just working through that whole understanding, and it kept coming back to me. So it probably took years for me to figure that one out. Not working every day for years, but a lot of the poems in this book came really quickly because I was just on a roll and very, very angry.
Do you have a favorite place you like to write, a location?
It changes, and years ago I used to pick a chair that I would work on a book in, and then when I was done with it, I couldn't sit in that chair anymore. I mean, it hurt, first of all, because it's a very much in chair activity. And then I would get rid of that chair. I would put it out on the curb or whatever. I'd throw it away and give it away. That got expensive, so I had to stop doing that and buy an ergonomic chair. And I was looking at these ergonomic chairs, and they were all so ugly. So I put into my search, ergonomic office chair that's not ugly. And I got a chair that I really like now. And people go, "Where'd you get that chair? It's not ugly." It was green velvet, which seemed too much, but turned out it wasn't, because I renovated a garage into a studio. And it's my study and my library now after, not having any place, always just teetering in whatever alcove or oversized closet I could get. And now I have a place that I really love to write.
Great question. Thank you. So when do you know you're done? When is a poem finished?
I really, and it's not a joke, but it's fine if you laugh, when I have a deadline. It really helps. It's all an expression of everything I'm thinking about, seeing everybody I'm talking to, how much I want to join in life, really, positive life, things about recognizing what's going on, struggling to make life possible in ways, and how do we talk about that? So that is an endless task. It's a task for my entire existence, and hopefully we'll go on with others, because I think of this as a conversation. I'm handing you this. You have a conversation. You write about it, think about it, share about it, take action. Those things are all really important to me. So if somebody didn't say, now you need to put it in between covers or on the internet or wherever, I would never be done with it. So I feel really lucky when people give me some kind of deadline. I don't have a deadline right now, so I'm just sort of meandering and writing things that are from a poem series called The Sensual History of D.L. Deer, and they're all just kind of poems about sensual moments in a woman's life. I don't know, they're starting to act up, some of them, so eventually some of these D.L. Deers, there's multiples of them, these D.L. Deers, and some of them are starting to be talky on the page, so we'll see what happens with them. But right now, I don't know what it is, and nobody said, I like that, here's your deadline.
Between happiness, sadness, or anger, which emotion seems to be the most inspiring
That's a great
or
question.
motivating?
I couldn't hear it. Motivating. Oh, like, yeah, I'm a fire sign. I burn. Anger is, and I have a hard time being angry in my personal life. So being angry on paper and for other people is my thing. I'm a Makwan Dodom. I'm a Bear Clan woman, and we're supposed to, protect. And that is what motivates me often. Although, like, I use a lot of humor too, so hopefully there's a sort of delight sometimes. I wouldn't call it happiness. That's like a big goal. Delight is as good as happiness.
Thank you. Maya has got some fire, so I think
All right.
that was a really powerful response. Dr. Peters asks, how would you describe the value of the arts?
Arts are the superpower. Arts unlock things for all kinds of thinkers. They create access between different types of people across language, gender, even political leanings, the ways our minds work. So I feel like they're a superpower. They're something that you can contribute to, be part of, have an interest in, and it will take you somewhere else. And the other thing about the arts is that it's the only place I've seen hard scientists go for inspiration. I've seen them go to, like, when I was in graduate school, the physicists used to hang out with us, and they would be asking us questions and talking about things that were way above my understanding. But they were also building the Hubble telescope while they were talking to poets at lunch. So, I feel like the arts are if we separate things from one another, that's where we get in trouble. When we think these are all ways people think, everybody has a role. I'm just looking at these beautiful pieces of activism and how the design and the art on them is just so moving, so also matches my outfit. And yeah, so I think that's a good question. It really is.
Heid, your art and your
Jesse.
encouragement is so powerful here today. We have time for one more question, please. Oh, do you have someone in mind?
There was somebody back there that
Okay, that sounds
put
good.
their
Yes,
hand up
please.
a couple of times.
A lot of your poems involve conversations. Does it ever happen that you write a poem, obviously revise it, but finish it, publish it, and then read it and say, hey, this conversation is not over? What do you do?
Well, I think that kind of in my head translated to my obsessions. And yeah, I think the thing I could do over and over and over again is describe the living world that I am part of and have people receive that and say, oh yeah, natives are so natural and nature, whatever. And I'll be like, no, let me write that again. We're all part of the living world. It's not just me. It's not just native. It's not a limiting thing. It's not some sort of just aesthetic choice. It is actually what will save all of us if we understand that there's no boundaries or borders between us. We are all one people. We are all one thing. We're all one part of creation. That's it. So that's the thing I'm saying. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming and staying this long. I just feel like such warmth from this crowd. And again, in Wendom, I'm so grateful to the people of this place, and Denewe Magana Dok, Anishinaabe Dok, my fellow Native people who are here tonight. Thank you.